From economic analysis on today's budget, I'm joined in studio by George Glynis. He's Chief Economist and MD at ETM. Thanks for joining us, George.
Thank you, Nampu.
Government needs to find 15 billion rand per annum as of next year in the form of tax hikes. Where do you think it's going to target?
Very good question. It's something that we're all asking ourselves at the moment. The income tax is obviously the biggest proportion of tax collected by government. So you'd think that was probably a soft target. But there's obviously corporate taxes that they could potentially look at as well. There's VAT, which I think they would do very reluctantly. There's fringe benefits. There's a raft of taxes that they could potentially look at raising some of this capital. I find it a little bit frustrating, though. You know, when we're talking about lifting taxes, I think one needs a little bit of perspective. It's better late than never that we're talking about balancing our fiscal book at this point in time. But we should have been doing this a couple of years ago. I mean, the Finance Minister is talking about us having reached the point now. Yes, we've reached that point now because, quite honestly, we've run out of fiscal runway. There's none left. Had we been doing something about this a couple of years ago already, I think we would have been in a more enviable position than we are right now. And the interventions that potentially need to take place wouldn't have been as severe as I suspect they're now going to have to be. So we need to keep context. I'm glad it's happening in this direction, but I think we missed an opportunity a couple of years ago.
Did he say enough to get the ratings agencies off our back, so to speak?
So that's a great question, Nampu, because I think this entire speech was aimed very squarely at trying to appease the ratings agencies. Most of the points raised were points that have been raised by the rating agencies themselves. So it was very clearly aimed at purchasing some time. And I think it was masterfully done. I think he presented very well. I think he came across fairly confidently, and I think as his inaugural budget speech, I think he did quite well. Again, the questions arise as to delivery of all of this. You know, we talk about things like efficiencies, productivity, and all of that. But, you know, on the productivity front, you know, I'd point out to the viewers that we're now on IPAP, I think it's version 6. And we've seen very little in the way of a response from the real economy, the productive side of the South African economy. We keep talking a good game, but I'm not seeing it in the numbers, and we're not seeing it in the feedback. So, you know, when one talks about the outlook for growth being in the order of 2.5% for next year, I raise big question marks about that and ask the question, how? Because the policies that we're implementing aren't changing. They've partly helped us get to the point where we're at right now. So serious questions need to be asked about South Africa's policy going forward, and whether the policies that have been implemented in industrial policy as well as fiscal and monetary are in fact the right mix to get South Africa unshackled and to produce the kind of growth rate that they talk about in the NDP.
All right, George, unfortunately, that's all we have time for, but thank you very much for your insights. That was George Glynis. He's Chief Economist and MD at ETM. Opposition MPs today took the opportunity to fire questions on Nkandla. Public Protector Thuli Madonsela was presenting her annual